How y'all doing? Tonight we gonna be cooking something I'm sure a lot of you had before. Many different types out there, many ways. It's really not anything we're gonna make from scratch, of course. It's go ahead and tell you it's frozen pizza. But I'm gonna put a little twist on it. Now, like I said, I'm gonna tell you up front, it's a frozen pizza is the basis for this dish. So if you don't like that, go ahead. You don't have to watch the rest of this video. You don't have to watch it and hit dislike or anything like that. This is basically a way to take a frozen pizza, amp it up a little bit, especially when we're on sale at your big box store, your discount store. You buy 6 or 10 of them at one time. Let's say you have a party or something like that, or you just don't have much time. You can strip these things down, add some good stuff to them, and they really turn out pretty decent. Now, no, they're not near as good as a homemade pizza or a pizza that you get in a restaurant, or no homemade crust or dough or sauce or even the cheese. I understand that, so I'm not trying to compete with that. I'm just trying to show you a way to improve on something really simple, really cheap and fast to make it pretty decent. It makes a pretty decent meal or snack, good to have people over at a football game and watch. So bear with me here for a minute and we're gonna get started. Okay, first off, I'll go with some of the ingredients we're going to use to go over those with you. Use some mushrooms, fresh mushrooms, some Roma tomatoes, some jalapeno peppers, a little purple onion. I got some, this is pizza seasoning here. Truly all it is, oregano, basil, marjoram, and garlic, grain garlic powder. Got some olive oil, some balsamic vinegar, and kosher salt. So we can get started preparing some of these ingredients up here. Okay, first thing I'm going to start off with busting this onion up. Now, got a little trick here on my cutting mat. Put a little wet paper towel underneath there. I got that trick from Tango Spice. Keeps it from sliding around. Seems to work pretty good. I'm going to only use about half of this onion. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of bust them up and get these peels thrown in the garbage. Let's see the best way to do this. Small half. I'll set this aside for right now. We'll go ahead and take this small half and peel it up. Okay, so we'll cut this onion up and just make some strips. And this is the best way I've seen to do it, because if you you dice it up, for some reason those little dices of onion don't caramelize quite like they do if you get these onion strips. And trust me, I've tried all different kind of ways. The best thing to do is cut just really thin strips of these onions, cut like this, these little half moons, and then we're going to pull them apart, and I'm going to put them in a little brine here just for a second. Go ahead and get that cut up and get it mixed up here in this bowl with some brine. I'll show you in just a second, a little marinade. Once you get them like this, go ahead and bust them up and take the just very little center piece. Let's see, I already got it out of that one. I'm going to take that little center out of there. So that's not what I want. I want these strips, just like this. Just want to bust this up with your hands. It'll just take a minute and make it in those little strips. Alright, once you got them in these nice little strips, we'll just set these aside. Now, I'm going to get ready to do tomatoes. And tomatoes, like I said, I like to use these Roma tomatoes because they have a good taste to them. They're nice and they're kind of this oblong shape. That's good for what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take the tomatoes. Go ahead and just slice them really thin. Slice that little end off, and then just make real thin slices of these tomatoes. Just want to get thin, because you want to top this. You want to put these tomatoes on top, and you want it to just really bake up good. So make these real thin slices of these tomatoes, and you got to use a sharp knife. Like I said before, I like to use these little ceramics to cut these tomatoes thin like this, especially these real ripe ones with this skin on there. Alright? You get these tomatoes cut up. Alright? That should be about enough tomato. I'm going to do that tomato now. It's just going to set on a plate over here on the side. Get that out the way. Now I got them on this plate. Go ahead, I'm going to dust them with a little bit of kosher salt. Just going to really bring that flavor, intensify that flavor. Also, see if I got some cracked black pepper. a little bit cracked black on them. A little salt and pepper. We're gonna let them sit just over there to the side. Alright. Now we're ready for some of the mushrooms. Well, I like to cut mushrooms. It's a little bit smaller knife. We're just gonna slice them like that. And just get these mushrooms in these thin slices. So I'm gonna just lay these mushrooms right on top of that pizza, just like that. Be sure to wash your mushrooms first. Now I like to let them dry a little bit before I start cutting them. Just dice your mushrooms up. Depends on how many you want, how many slices you need. I think I'm only going to need this one mushroom, maybe for this pizza. I don't know, I might use about another one. I don't know, that might be enough mushroom right there. Now that mushroom's all busted up, we're going to go with the jalapeno. Light me some jalapenos on that pizza. That's going to make good spice level to it. Slice you some thin. Like I say, I like these fresh jalapeno seeds in. You can take the seeds out. You can use the jarred jalapenos, whatever you like. I don't like those little jarred slimy things. Unless they're going on some nachos or some cheese whiz or something. But I think you can do a lot better than that using some fresh jalapenos when you got them in season. Okay, now let's do kind of a little marinade I was talking about for these onions and some of these tomatoes. In a bowl, we'll add a little bit of olive oil. That's enough. Might have been too much, that's fine. We just won't use all the marinade. And a little bit of balsamic vinegar, just a touch. That'll be about enough. Maybe some of this pizza seasoning in here. Sprinkle. That's good. And then, like I said, don't be afraid. Just mix it around. Mix it around. Alright, let's take some of these onions. Okay? Let's put some of these onion slices in this bowl and just flip them around. Just get a little coating of this oil on there. Flip them a couple times. Just lift them up. Let them really kind of strain out and just set them back down on the board. Just go ahead and just going to give it, it's going to help to brown these onions in the oven. And it's also going to give them a little bit of good flavor. But mainly, this oil here is to make sure these onions brown up right. It's going to be really good. We'll go ahead and do the rest of these onions. Now I have most of those onions done. Got them sitting aside. Go ahead and the bottom of that bowl the onions were. This is going to save us some bowls, having to dirty up so many plates. I'm going to set these tomatoes. Alright, I'm going to set these tomatoes just like that. This is going to be neat how we use the residual oil and season off the onions for these tomatoes. But there's no point in you don't want to get too much of that oil and stuff on the tomatoes. You don't have to. So I got that. Now I'm going to set these onions on top of that. Just like that. And that's going to get just enough oil on the tomatoes. And just enough of that balsamic vinegar to make those good. So we'll let that sit there for a couple minutes. Okay, now it's time to start assembling this pizza. Now the key is keep your pizza in the freezer until it's time to go ahead and start assembling the toppings. You want the pizza frozen solid. You don't want it to get soggy before you put it in the oven. Get your oven preheated about 400. Now, on the pizza you buy the pizza, the discount pizza that you like the crust the best. Me, I like a real crispy, thin crust. So I buy the cheapest pizza that I've tried. Now you can try different cheap ones. You just buy one time to give it a test. You don't want to buy something that you just can't stand the way the crust tastes or the sauce. And I like to get the vegetable pizza if I can. Just something with some peppers on it. I just knock some of that stuff off. Basically just using this as a platform, okay? Excuse me. So, what we want to do, go ahead and get the toppings going on this thing. I'm going to get washed up here and we get ready to go. Okay, first off, let's start with some cheese. I like to get a nice soft mozzarella. I like the Sargento brand. And go ahead and get a total good coverage over the top of this pizza. This is going to be that cheese. It's just all, the string, nice smooth cheese. You can put in all those spots where you can see that sauce peeking through and everything else. A lot of people, If you want, you can knock some of that cheese off that came with it. I'll leave it on there because a lot of these discount pizzas don't come with much cheese anyway. So go ahead and put that good nice soft mozzarella on there. You can use whatever brand you want. I just happen to get Sargento tonight. That's a pretty good brand. Now, I've also got some other cheese. This was just my store brand. They call this pizza cheese. And it's a couple different cheeses mixed together. There's a little bit of mozzarella. It's got a little bit of Parmesan in here. I don't know, maybe a couple more things. I just wanted to kind of fill in some of the gaps with that too. Okay? Now we got our cheese layer. Next, I want to put my meats. Got some pepperonis here. I'm going to space these pepperonis out like I like them. Pretty dang close together. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and make a pepperoni level. You know how to do this. This ain't no rocket science. So I'm going to go ahead and get these pepperonis on there. And you see, that's another thing you can up the quality of your pizza with. You change the pepperonis out. You use some nice pepperonis from your deli. Another thing about this pizza too I wanted to tell y'all is, you see, I've been using these ingredients, and you may say, well, I don't want to go buy a frozen pizza and buy all those ingredients just to make one pizza. Well, this is a lot of the stuff you already have around the house. You're using for something else, and you can use this to make, with this onion, with this tomato, with that cheese, you can make several of these. So let's go ahead and I'm going to put some onions on it now. Go ahead and I like to lay these onions out like this so I can cut them. Let me zoom in here a little bit for you. Them onions. The way I just kind of lay these onions out, because you got to think about another thing when you're laying out a pizza is how your pizza cutter is going to roll across it. I'm going to lay everything out so you can do nice little cuts over these onions and cut you little slices of pizza. So you just lay the onions out like you may. You can overlap some of them. Try to just spread them out as much as you can and get you a nice, good layer. Really nice layer of onion on there. I don't want any of them big, thick pieces. Some of the thin stuff. That'll be real good. Okay, after I got some of them onions on, I'm going to come in with some mushrooms. Just taking mushrooms every once in a while now. Put the mushrooms in there. Break some of them in half. You'd be surprised. You might think, well, if mushrooms feel kind of dry, they burn or something like that. Mushrooms got some moisture in them. You'd be surprised how much moisture is in a mushroom. So, go ahead with these mushrooms. If you want to, you can put those mushrooms in that olive oil, balsamic vinegar marinade too. But I just didn't want to give everything that taste. Get my mushrooms down on there. Now we're going to come on with some of these jalapenos. Zoom in a little bit more. See, we're getting nice and colorful looking pizza. These jalapenos there. Yeah, these are little firecrackers. Like I said, these are full, got the seeds and everything. You don't have to do that. Me, I like the heat. Full heat kind of guy, so that's what I want to do. And another thing I like about doing pizza like this, with these store-bought frozen pizza with the crust is made to hold up to a lot of moisture because the pizza's frozen and it thaws in the oven. So you can really pile the toppings on, to where if you made a nice homemade crust or something, sometimes when you bought one of those ready baked crust, this ain't gonna hold up to all this topping. Now I'm gonna put these tomatoes on. I like to use those the last layer because I really want those tomatoes to kind of wilt or to kind of stew and caramelize with the heat. So there we go with tomatoes. Wow, this is looking really beautiful. I know it's going to taste just right. Go ahead around with tomatoes. I could have used a couple more tomatoes on this thing, but that's alright. I'll space these out good. For each slice you get a nice little tomato. Could have put a couple more tomatoes in there. That's okay. I'm going to take a little bit of this last little bit of cheese there. Bring a tiny bit out on top. Now I'm going to hit it with this pizza seasoning again. Make sure you get a good dose of that on there. And season it all up. Now, we're ready to put this pie in the oven. We'll put it on the rack, 400 degrees. Okay, go ahead and open this oven up here. And in your oven, underneath where you're going to put the pizza, you want to have that pizza pan there covered in foil. So, it's going to do some dripping. But you're going to put the pizza directly on the rack. But you want that pan there underneath, covered in foil. Now we're going to put it in there for about 17 minutes. We can go ahead and check it. So I'm going to set my timer. 17. I'm going to start it up. Okay, she's been baking there 17 minutes and I added 5 minutes just because of the thick toppings. I like a lot of toppings. Now what I'm going to do, I just turned the broiler on. I'm going to sit under the broiler just for about 2 minutes. Alright, and that's just going to give its toppings a nice last little basting of heat. Nice little braise. Those jalapenos and those tomatoes and everything else. Have turn the broiler on just on the top. Just nice, put nice caramelization on those toppings. Now here's a very important part. I'm going to check the toppings real quick with my spatula. Set you down here so you can kind of watch. Zoom out. Just make sure everything, nothing's burning really. No, we just got to get caramelization. It's an important part. We're going to leave the oven door open just like this for about 2 or 3 minutes with the oven off. This really allows that crust to crisp up. I don't know why, but I found that it does. You just let it sit there and kind of cool on that oven rack before you put it on that pan for about 2 or 3 minutes. It really helps out. Okay, now that it's setting that oven on that rack for a minute or 2, it's time to, just couldn't hear that crisp crust. If you don't care about such a crisp crust, you don't have to let it sit there for a minute. It's something about if you put it real hot and steamy right onto the pan, it just doesn't have such a crisp crust. I just love that crisp flavor. Now I like to cut mine as small pieces as possible on the pan. I'm going to go ahead and serve it up. It has that nice stringy cheese. You don't find that on just the regular frozen pizza. No, sir. Go ahead and just get you a couple pieces on there. Get that cheese off if you can. Here's what I like on my pizza. I like a little sriracha. Put a little bit of that, dose of that on there. Put on any kind of pizza. And of course, if you like, put a little bit of parm. But I'm telling you what, this is some really, really good food for what it is. A lot better than just your average frozen pizza for sure. This is top-notch stuff with some great toppings. So, never tried it at home. You gotta try to doctor up that frozen pizza. Whether you want a bunch of toppings like I do, like a lot of vegetation on there, or like a lot of cheese, do it like that. Or if not, maybe you want all meat pizza. Just try that, and I'm telling you, it's your next party or something, it'll be a hit. But if not, I understand. A lot of people are totally against trying to use a frozen product like that, make it any better. That's fine. You don't have to watch this video. But if you're interested in doing something like that, wanting a quick, simple tip, go ahead and give it a try. and I think you'll be surprised.
Appreciate y'all.